So today we're going to talk about direction. When I first started this, I don't know, series, I thought that I would be doing the 6 Ds. So I call it 6 life lessons in my 20s in one video, but I just rambled so long that I think I have to make it a collection of videos. All right. So the second thing I've learned in my 20s is direction. And let's rewind a little bit, right? So you start college, you start university, everyone kind of follows on, the same trajectory to that spot, right? The moment you graduate. And everyone kind of splinters off in all the different directions, right? So what's critical that I haven't mentioned yet here is the direction you take will matter a lot for the kind of life you have. It's kind of stupid. I know it's like super obvious. Obviously, the direction I take will have a big thing, impact on my life. But you don't really understand because you all start in the same position. And even if you take a direction that's like just slightly different, you know, if you do a bit of mathematics in college, which I did, you realize that two parallel lines still remain parallel throughout. But if directionally you're just going a little bit off, you can end up in very different places 5 years from now. So, my point is, the direction you take is going to have a big impact on your life, but at the same time, you're in a process of discovery. So, the direction you take isn't fixed. You can change the direction at any point in life, especially in your 20s, where you have no obligations, nothing that you really care about, and the world is somewhat your oyster at that point. Um, anyway, let's talk about direction. So I think it's really important to make a bet on the right direction of life. But what is right is different at every point in your life, right? In your early 20s, you might be prioritizing fun, a partner, adventure, travel, backpacking, I don't know, rock climbing. And then you're 5, 10 years later, you don't give a shit about rock climbing, right? Very common. Um, so I think it's important to make a bet on the right direction and understand that there's kind of two things in your life, right? There's the things that won't change a lot. I mean, they'll change over the years, but fundamentally, those are aspects that will be in your life. And there are things that will change over the course of your life. So, for example, things that won't change in your life, your family, right? Doesn't matter how much you love your friends and your college mates and all the fun you had. The reality is that when you graduate, you probably lose a good percentage of those friends, right? And the way I look at friends is that friends are like seasons. Some stay with you for 10 seasons, some stay with you for 1 season, some stay with you for a day, and some stay with you for a holiday. So, yes, friends are not permanent. They might get married, they might have kids, their priorities in life will change at some point, and if you're still single, you probably find that they won't hang out with you as much, unfortunately. But family is different. Doesn't matter how much you hate them or how much you love them. They will be present at every stage in your life, right? So try to understand what are those things for you. So family is just an example that applies to a lot of people, but that could be enjoying running, loving football, right? You might have just a strong affinity for a lot of these things that will be a constant in your life that you want to prioritize. So understand what are the things that won't change or are pretty slow to change in life, and things that change very often, like perhaps the job that you have, what you like right now, and specific to your interests. Maybe the partner you're dating or the city you're living in. Those things will change, but part of direction is making sure you're in the right direction. So, for example, if you're really ambitious, you probably want to go to a major city. If you're in technology, you probably want to be in San Francisco or the United States because that has a ton of opportunity when it comes to technology. If you are in financial field, you probably want to move to a city like New York or London, and kind of make your name there, make a ton of money, and live the bro lifestyle. Um, if you love fashion and arts, maybe you go to Los Angeles or London or, Shanghai or Tokyo, right? So different cities attract different people, and you got to find out. Part of the discovery process is finding out who you are and where you sit in terms of from an interest standpoint. But don't make the mistake of labeling yourself that, hey, I am X, I am Y, I am an artist, I am a technologist, I am a banker, right? I think initially I had a lot of those self-limiting mindset around like I am X. And the key is not to tie yourself to a certain identity, right? Because if you tie yourself to an identity, you have a perception, or your friends have a perception of what that identity entails. And you don't want that. You don't want to be limited by these confines of what people have defined for you. Create your own path, right? Um, what I find most helpful is understanding what you value in life, right? Some people value money a ton. Some people value impact. Some people value looking good to people, having a large social network, right? So I think it's key to find out what you value first of all, and then build your identity on top of things you value. And the things you value might change over time, and that's why your direction changes over time, right? But start with your values. Spend time alone. Listen to podcasts. Listen to me. Self-promoting here, but you get the idea, right? The great thing about technology nowadays is that you have so many points of view online. You have so many podcasts, so many YouTube videos like this one, and they all give you a perspective of how they view life. Like I am giving you my perspective based on my experience going through life of how I view the world, things I wish I knew when I was 20, when I just got started, a framework for thinking about how to navigate life. And it's up to you to really decide what resonates with you, right? And the only way to do that is really just consuming a lot of information. And I love information personally, and I'm just an addict for like podcasts and YouTube videos. And that's why I kind of, started this channel of my own just to kind of let things out and, but also, practice some camera skills and just talking about some ideas that I kind of held pretty closely to myself that I thought maybe could be helpful for someone out there. So yes, direction. Think very deeply about the direction you want to go in life, the city you want to live in. Because if you think about what aspects really kind of influence a lot of your life, it's the job you have, affects the number of amount of free time, the skills you learn, the people you meet. It's the city you live in, London, New York, Paris, I don't know, some bougie ass town in the south of France. That affects your lifestyle a lot, right? Your environment affects your lifestyle. And the people that city attracts also affects your lifestyle because those are the people you be friends with. Those are the people you meet. Those are the people you have sex with. So that makes a big difference. And it might seem very overwhelming at first to decide which city, kind of suits you best. But that's kind of what your 20s is for, is to kind of make that discovery of say, hey, who am I as a person? What do I value? And for those things I value, where can I find these people? Right? So I think that's kind of a big part. You're not gonna get it right right off the bat. But that's kind of the fun of life, right? And the perils of life. The way I look at it is always There are seasons to life. Sometimes you go in a different wrong direction, and sometimes you go in the right direction. Sometimes you focus on your career and you neglect your friendships. And sometimes you focus on your friendships and your career takes a nosedive. And sometimes you focus on your artistic habits and suddenly you run out of money. And then there are years where you travel a lot and there are years you don't. Right? So there's seasons to life, and I think the key takeaway for me is that each season you can only focus at most on two, maybe three, maybe four things. That's all, right? You will neglect other aspects of your life, but it's a good thing. Focus is a good thing. Having consistent habits that kind of reinforce the two to three things that you value in life are important. And it's going to take time to form your own identity, your own framework, and your own way of life. But a big part of 20s and why and that's why it's so exciting and that's why there's so much content about your 20s is because it's so malleable, right? It's a lot more exciting. When you get to your 30s and 40s and most people kind of buys a house, settle down, they stay in the same job for, 10, 20 years. You have a very solid structure to your life at that point. You have a very solid identity of who you are as a person, um, that you do not have in your early 20s. So take the time, enjoy it. It's chaos, it's uncertainty, it's going to be messy, you're going to cry, you're going to be angry, you're going to feel a ton of different emotions, and enjoy it because, it doesn't last forever. And I can already see that for myself, who's turning 30 this year, that I started out my 20s as like a wacky dude of like very much an unsettled blade of just like trying different things. My direction's kind of like going on like a freaking dance move, right? And then now it's more like a settled blade. You kind of just know the direction you're heading. You might make slight adjustments here and there, but you're just very, very steady at that point, at least for me. Of course, that doesn't apply to everyone. And it might be just something very different that kind of shifts my priorities a lot and change my identity as an individual. But, but the more work you do in the early years, the more suffering you're willing to put yourself through to kind of go through those directional shifts. And it's not easy, not easy at all. The more you will feel settled, comfortable, having a strong sense of who you are, who you value, who you want to spend time with in your late 20s. All right, that's it for today. Thank you.